For generations, Igloo has been part of backyard barbecues, little league games, fishing trips, tailgates, road trips, and just about every great American adventure imaginable. What began as a small company has grown into a household name synonymous with keeping things cold while bringing people together. Today, we'll talk about the history of the brand, the evolution of the cooler business, how Igloo stayed relevant for decades, and what it takes to steward an American icon in a rapidly changing world. John Maldonado and Benjamin Soto from Igloo joined us. Welcome to the Great American Summer. John, Benjamin, thanks again for joining me.
My pleasure. Yeah.
All right. So 2 for 1. I mean, we're talking about a great company here. Igloo is an iconic American company. I'm so happy to be speaking with you. John, I think you mentioned to me you've been, 28 years with the company?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, wow. Benjamin, how long have you been with Igloo?
10 years. 10 years this October.
Decade. You're a baby. You're still getting started.
Right.
So
Compared to some of the legends, yes.
Who wants to share the origin story of Igloo?
Ben, why don't you take that one?
You want me to do this?
Yeah, do it.
There's so many beginnings for Igloo, but I'm going to talk about the original one in 1947. So what happened was we had some brothers who were opening like a tool and die shop. And one of the things they were making were these metal coolers, these metal canteens. And they had many brands. They had one called Horton's and a couple other brands that I just don't recall right now. But one of them was Igloo, and the Igloo name just took off, right? And so they're manufacturing these canteens, because imagine this was in Houston, Texas, right? You're in those oil fields and it's hot. There's no hotter place than Texas, right, John? If it's not the heat, it's the humidity. But right. And so imagine drinking from a bucket and a ladle like back in those days, right? There's dust everywhere and you're just scooping warm water. It's just
Is
right.
that how in the oil fields it was done before Igloo invented there was no cooler before Igloo invented the cooler. Is that right?
Right. Right. Well, actually the canteen, it was a World War II invention. And because what happened was the soldiers in the South Pacific, they needed water that was protected from bugs and other things. And so it was one of those World War II inventions. And so Igloo just, they started making these canteens and these insulated jugs, and it was just a massive business for these brothers, and it took off from 1947 until about 1960s. And then in 1960s, plastics was like the big hit in America. Everything was going plastics. And
so for the first 13 years of Igloo's origin, Benjamin, it was a metals company. It didn't no plastic really existed.
Right. It was a tool and die shop making metal things, right? And the coolers was, the thing that took off for them. And then they bought a plastics company, Texas, Tennessee. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
John?
TTI. Yep.
TTI, right. They bought a plastics company because imagine a metal cooler, right? And metal, it gets rusty, trying to clean it. Like if you put a fish in a metal cooler, that stink is not going away. So
just take me back to 1960 then. What was the environment relative to plastics at the time? I mean, that seems like a visionary type decision that would have been made to invest in a plastics company. Was that
right? That was a big deal. They purchased Texas Tennessee Company, which was a plastics company. We started doing plastic molding and making plastic coolers, which I think I'm pretty sure we were the first people to make a plastic cooler. I've done lots of research and haven't been able to find a competitor that has been making plastic coolers longer than we have.
What was the technology in the original was there technology in the original metal coolers, or was it just simply enclosed?
Ooh, John is more of the industrial side of it, but
it was just like imagine like a tin can of canned vegetables. It was manufacturing basically the same way, where you're tucking and folding metal over. You create a sleeve, you create a base, and you're just tucking and rolling metal over each end to create like this container. And then the innovation came in foaming the actual cooler itself, putting it into polyurethane foam. And that is what Ben's describing that occurred in the 60s was combining, plastics with polyurethane foam to create what we know today is the essence of a cooler.
About 20, I'm trying to think of the numbers, about 20% of all companies that are ever launched last a decade or more, right? 80% last a year, 20% last a decade. Igloo is coming up on 80 years. Is there a moment in time that changed the company?
Great question. I never get to answer questions like this. John, if you don't mind. So what happened is okay, so we had we had a visionary CEO back in those 60s, the one that helped us purchase the plastics company. And so he started thinking of branding and making new products. And that was kind of when we started like just a little bit of a budding, right? And then in 1972, we invented the Playmate. You guys are familiar with the Playmate cooler, right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't.
Everybody's familiar with the Playmate cooler. It's the most
Yeah, my little
iconic
buddy
piece.
right there you go.
Oh, for
Look at
sure.
this one right here.
Wow.
And I love this one. I got this off of one of the workers that came to work at my house. I got him a new one. I'm like, can I just have this one so I could just appreciate like all that this one has been through?
What
You know,
year do you
so
think that's from?
oh, we know exactly when that's from. See on the bottom, there's this little stamp right here. See that? John, you want to tell him what this is while
It's
I
called
look
the
it up?
date dial, manufacturing date dial.
Right. So this one says that this was made in 1989. It was made May of 1989.
That
I
is
was gonna
cool
guess May.
because so I like to antique. My grandmother got me into it. You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I like to
Grandma.
antique, right?
Yes. Yes.
So now when I go antiquing, if I see the classic style Playmates, I can look and see what year they were made.
Yep, grab
And
that
you're
date
and
dial.
you're going to tell me after you finish this story, you're going to tell me uh, about the Playmates from each of the decades and why I should care about those dates.
Right. Oh, I can. Yes. So we can talk more about that. Okay. So there was this point where we invented the Playmate, right? And this is so cool about the Playmate. So back then, it was like Mad Men time, right? Like we didn't have design in-house. We were a manufacturing company. So we hired the Chicago company to design like products for us. Hey, we want some new products. And the CEO was like, we want something that's really special that nobody can copy, that's really difficult to copy. So Paul Specht was he was the lead guy on this in this marketing company, and they came up with this idea of the Playmate because it's got three parts to it. One part is blow molded plastic, one part is injection molded plastic, and the other part is vacuum forming plastic. And these three ways, not everybody has these three machines or these three ways of plastic molding. So we invented this cooler. I'm just going to grab this again. I have to put it away. And also imagine back then, if you're like a tooling guy, like making straight lines is easy, but making like sexy curves like this in a machine is really tough. You know,
Yeah. I love how tooling and engineer guys talk about manufacturing and use the word sexy. It's true. It really
right,
is.
right. So, oh my God, John, Mike, tell them about how gnarly the plans are for the math is for these lines right here. Like if you look at
Yeah,
the blueprints, yeah,
it's not only curved in the direction Ben has shown you, but if there's a slight curve the other way, so it's this compound geometry that drives. I mean, now we have CNC and computer aided design that helps cut things on a machine, but back in the day, to Ben's point, you had, circle templates and arcs, and creating this complex geometry was a challenge all by itself.
Right. It wasn't just ship this over and get it knocked off.
Right,
Nobody could do it.
right, exactly. It was our Coca-Cola bottle, so to speak. Thinking about the classic Coke bottle, that was the goal with the Playmate, was create something
Yeah.
iconic,
I'm by the
that we can
by the
own.
way, John, I'm very close to the Coca-Cola bottle story. You don't know this about me, but my intern 20 I'm looking at the date, 26, 24 years ago, my intern was the grandson, great grandson of the inventor of the Coke bottle in Terre Haute, Indiana. It was the Root family in Terre Haute,
Yeah,
Indiana.
there you go.
So I
Wow.
understand he won a contest and he designed the Coke bottle to be of a female figure. That's that was so, and the concept behind it was, and very you could this goes to the Playmate as well. Is his concept was, and this is different for Coke because it's a consumer good, like grabbable, but it's true for the Playmate. He wanted a blind person to be able to tell that they were drinking a Coca-Cola, and it was the
Exactly.
turn of the century, and so everything was glass.
Love it.
Terre Haute Glass Company.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Still super iconic. So after that we made the Playmate, we had sold our company to Pepsi, and Pepsi, they really understood the power of marketing. And I think that's really when the gasoline went into the tank, when Pepsi understood the power of marketing and how to spread, the Playmate and many of the products we were making then, and how to pitch it in a different light. We have tons of catalogs and images of some of these things. And so really exciting to see when it really blossomed then, because before 1970s, like 1972, we don't have a lot of marketing materials, but afterwards we have like a robust marketing, photography, like all kinds of stuff, which is really exciting to look through.
Can
I
you
mean,
find the old Playmates?
You could find them anywhere. You know what's so great? We make these things to last forever. One of our brand tenets is durability. And like this one from the 80s, I mean, this was being used not too long ago by somebody, and it still is in great shape. And so you could always find old ones. You go antiquing, I go antiquing. There's a place called the Long Beach Antique Flea Market here in California. And man, I see Playmates there all the time.
John, you were going to say.
well, yeah, thanks. Because Igloo's started our roots, in the oil industry and on the work site, the Playmate was kind of designed for that market, for that working class hero, bringing his lunch in the same sort of product promise of preservation on the work site. But to Ben's point, when it was started to marketing, it started as a worksite cooler, but then it just blossomed into a cooler for everyone, taking it to the beach, to the picnic, etc. So that was really, the explosion of our product line into consumer goods.
So, Igloo's been around so long. It's been part of American culture for a long time. Are there any stories, Benjamin? You're out in California. John, you're in Texas. Are there any stories that stand out to you about Igloo in pop culture that you can recount?
Well, I'll start. Ben has a lot of stories. One of the things, like I said, Jay, I've been here for 28 years, and we pride ourselves in talking to the consumer. We call this activity called cooler creeping.
Oh, Sean's
Um,
the best at this.
yeah, and this is where we literally like go to the work site, go to the beach, go to the ball game, and you just talk to consumers. You say, "Hey, I'm John with Igloo. Can I see inside your cooler?" And, like a Creedence Clearwater Revival song, they're happy to give. They're happy to open up that cooler, share a beer with you, and they just show you they're it's like the easiest conversation starter. And so, getting in touch with the consumer is so awesome, and they share their stories with you, Jay. The one story that stands out in my mind, um, I saw this guy from across the baseball field. I'm on the left field foul line. He's on the right field foul line, and I noticed one of our coolers. So I went around the dugouts and went over there and approached him and talked to him. And he goes, "Oh, this is my wife's cooler. She won't let me touch it. She bought it and she said, 'This is my cooler.'" And I said, "Well, hey, I designed that cooler." And then he brought his wife over and then they had me autograph it. I don't know, it's just a crazy story, but they just embrace it. At least the mom embraced this cooler as her own and keep it separate from, all the other coolers in the garage. So that was kind of a proud moment.
I love that about John. So John is like our main designer of coolers, right? And John's been with us for such a long time. He carries all this institutional knowledge. And on top of that, Like if John is at Walmart and he sees somebody with an Igloo cooler, he's like in there just asking them all these questions about what are you going to use it for? What do you think? What made you pick this one over the other ones? Like John is like the most friendliest, curious guy about these coolers. I mean, John, I've seen you testing coolers in your swimming pool to see if how they float because we have we have stories of boats sinking and people seriously cling on to our coolers and
Incredible.
they're rescued because they're holding on to our coolers. And there's some incredible stories about that. One of the ones that stick out in my mind, Jay, is this one about we get letters all the time. This gentleman, he started his job, his blue collar job. I think he was a UPS driver. And he that first day he bought an Igloo cooler and he used it every day for like working for UPS for 40 years. And then on the last day, he put that thing away and I think he gave it to his daughter and he was done with it. It was just he sent us a letter thanking us for being there every day at lunch for him. And that was like so
That's
touching
cool.
for us because like to be a part of his day and to deliver, something like that because, we always say good things happen around a cooler and like that's what lunch is. That's what hanging out with people is. That's what we try to we try to create, make opportunity for people to enjoy those moments. I don't want to get too marketing about this, but it
No, for
really,
sure.
here's the thing about us at Igloo. When you work for Igloo, you become obsessed with them. I remember when I started here, like I was like, yeah, coolers or whatever. But now I'm 10 years in and I'm like looking in people's garages, just trying to see what they have. I'm at the beach and I see people using coolers. I'm trying to creep and see how they're using it, what's inside. Like, when you work here, you become crazy about coolers and it's
Jay Sapovitz, Great American Summer. Let me tell you, the Playmate Pal 7-quart cooler, everybody knows it. It comes in yellow, black, red, and blue. It's an iconic piece and gift. And if you're looking to give somebody something as a promotional item that's special and brings back memories, we all saw and had these as a kid. It's a beautiful piece that will stand the test of time. I call Igloo products forever gifts because once you get an Igloo hard cooler, you never, ever, ever throw it away. You don't need to. It lasts forever. The Igloo Playmate Pal 7-quart cooler. Great American Summer on sale. I'll tell you, it's funny. It's funny that, so the series is called The Great American Summer, and my whole idea and concept behind it was that we wanted to feature iconic American companies that are sold inside the promotional space. Items we can put logos on, decorate, things we sell and offer to our clients. Summer slow, give ourselves a reason to talk to our clients, highlight the America 250 in a way that nobody else is highlighting it. And I've had the good fortune to talk to people from companies like Zippo, Cross Pens. I mean, Cross Pens, 1840, 50, 60, crazy nuts, like
right.
so old, right? Coming up on 200 years. It's not different than when in our you're passionate about Igloo. They're passionate about Zippo. They're passionate about Cross Pens. Like to hear the passion in these iconic American companies. Yeah, ownership changes. There might be some offshore stuff and money's flowing around, but you're America. Like your coolers are. I mean, they're all made, 18 million coolers in Katy, Texas, John, where you're at? Is that what it is? A year?
17, 18. Yep. You got it.
Well, is it 17 or 18 million coolers, John? We got to make numbers. No, I'm just kidding.
No, they tell us what we're allowed to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot
they
of
don't want us
coolers
to give
all
up
made in Katy. This is still an American made product.
right. It is. And
Yeah.
And let me tell you guys about John too. John is the guy who's fighting for people. Like John wants to put like a bottle opener. He wants to put the better handle carry. He's like he wants to put all the things into the cooler. John fights all because we do a thing called value engineering because we want our coolers to be what's called accessible. We want it to be $50 or below or some price point that is easy on the consumer, right? So we have to work backwards all often. And John is in there fighting every day for the consumer, trying to give them better quality products. And so he is truly the heart of Igloo.
No, that's a good point. You talk about innovation and, creating meaningful features for the consumer, but we still stay true to our brand. And like Ben said, one of our pillars is accessibility, meaning price points, right? Something that every American can afford. They want that feature, but maybe they can't afford a $200 cooler. So we really work hard to put features within the cooler that we call thoughtful touches, that you can have these nice features, but you're not breaking the bank to put them in. And that's I think where we've been successful over competitors is it's easy to design a sports car with all the bells and whistles, but take that sports car and design it for 999. That's the challenge.
John, your role, I know Benjamin alluded to it, but like you're the head of design. Like a cooler doesn't hit the street unless you've okayed it and you've created it, right? You and Benjamin work closely together to actually like bring products to life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I there's always a team behind, as you know, Jay.
Of
When
course.
it comes to the likes of Ben, our engineering team, our product managers, our leadership believes in product development, which has always been that's why I've been here so long, because we've been fortunate, to be under leadership that loves product and loves the Igloo brand as much as we do. And so I may go out to the consumer and discover an idea, and we come back here and we sketch it, and then we start to create it. um, but sometimes I can dream of something, but the engineers really make it functional and make it happen. And that's the beauty part of it. I always talk about my second paycheck is seeing someone walk out the door of a mass retailer with one of our products and like, oh, that started from a cocktail napkin,
Mm.
and that's the pure joy of that second paycheck, like I mentioned.
And Jay, John's the dreamer. When John is the one who's coming up with the idea and the concept of the product. And John is not only struggling with the value engineering of part of it, but we have our factory that manufactures these hard side coolers, right? John is wrestling with the ease of manufacturing it, right? Because he has a vision of the way it should look and the way it should work. And then he's got these engineers saying, well, it's not going to mold right if you do X, Y, or Z. Or
Exactly.
you've got
Yeah.
engineers, math going, John, you can't do this because of this or that. So John is in there fighting every day for, for the cool. He's the one that's in the other corner trying to make it
Yeah.
happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
must feel
So
really good.
as a steward of the brand, as a leader of the brand, designer and um, product engineer, like how do you how, how do you think through, I mean, something that's already iconic? Like, so when you're adding to the product mix, like, how do you think through that
That's a
from,
good question. Iconic product is our water cooler, right? That Ben mentioned that showed up on the work site here in Southeast Texas. That water cooler, you think, well, I can't reinvent that, but you actually can. And Jay, like I said, you can't sit in your office and think of what that next version, and you've got to go to the work site and watch how these teams of workers were using your product. And what we discovered recently in the past 4 or 5 years is the water cooler
that's the
is
original?
what's that?
That's what
Is
they
that
look
the
like.
original?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is what they look like, but these are updated. This is probably in the 80s.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but the water cooler, as we discovered, is not only for hydration and filling up, your cone cup of water or your water bottle, but it also became a wash station, a cool down station. Workers taking rags and soaking, their cooling towel with the cold water coming out of
So
the
how does that
cooler.
manifest itself relative to design of the Igloo cooler?
Okay, good question. So right now it's the cooler is designed for dispensing liquid with a little push button. And so through this observation, it was difficult for them to fill their rag. And instead of a push button, we're now
You had a toggle
developing a
switch.
faucet, right? Something
Yeah.
I can leave on and off and leave it there. And that's the thoughtful touch of simple innovations that don't cost a lot of money, but are meaningful to the evolving way people are using coolers.
You know,
That's like a
just to
drastic way.
this is completely off the subject, but I had a company send me a box, and it was like Monday, all 7 days of the week for a pill box, and then it had these toggle switches at the bottom, and the toggle switches were so incredibly firm and hard to switch off and over. And I said to the company, I said, I'll never sell this pillbox. And they said, why? And I said, because the toggle switches are too firm. I said, somebody who's taking pills 7 days a week likely doesn't have the strength
Yeah, arthritis in their fingers. Yeah,
to clip this thing over. I'm 55, 54 at the time I was doing this, and it was hard for me. Not hard, but like hard.
Right.
And so that's you're saying the level of detail that you're having conversations about because you're in the field and seeing how people use the products.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's
What an innovation,
it,
talking to customers. Who would know that that would be the way that you would get to the best products?
right. It's bigger than that. I mean, John, like there's John, but we have like probably I want to say 30 to 40 engineers here, and they are all like testing these things. We have like a quality department that is like making sure that when the factory's running, we're making these things, making sure that everything's consistent and to spec. They pull like while the line's running, they pull items off the line and they test them to make sure that the durability is there. And the way the plastic is bending or the color of it, all of it is like in within spec. And so we are we are crazy about that. Making coolers is a lot like baking cookies, right? When you bake cookies, they're not all the same size and shape, but our factory is like really committed to trying to make every cooler exactly the same to spec that we do. And it's wild. I never thought about plastic molding as this, you think you just turn on a machine, it runs, but it doesn't. The foaming, the plastic, the assembly, everything is like there's so much to it. It's mind blowing. Come on down to
So
our factory sometime and have a look. We'll
Yeah.
show you.
I would love to come down to the Igloo factory. So when in the promo space, you're marketed by a company called Gemline. And when Jess came in to show me from Gemline your products, she brought this Igloo Playmate. You were talking about value the other day. This is an 80-ounce cooler, okay, jug, the Igloo Party Jug, it's called.
Yep. The party.
With a company logo on it, it's $30. I mean, that feels like stealing for something of this quality. This is honestly, I fall in love with probably a product a week. People make good products. When she brought me down this Igloo, I said, I have to have it. Now, I have it for my shelf because I want to look at it because I think it's a great product. But you know what I describe this product as? When my clients give this product to their clients with their logo on it, I
You said
described
it's
it
a
as a
forever product. Is that what you called it?
I called it a forever gift.
Right. I saw this video you just did, and thank you. You were like so passionate about what Igloo means, and you were like, I grew up in the time of Igloo, and we remember when we were kids, during the soccer breaks or going camping,
100%.
like it was
I
always
don't
that
know a
Igloo,
person my
right?
age whose family didn't have a Playmate cooler.
Right.
Okay. Now, I will say, and look, this is a little bit of a promotion piece, of course. I'm not to be critical or negative. Igloo felt, I don't know if it's true, felt like it had a little bit of a dip at one point. You're around 79 years, you're going to have a dip. But ideologically, like in the consumer's mind, that's not the case now. I mean, it's full steam ahead. You guys are rolling.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny,
I mean,
Jay.
that's
That
true,
party
isn't
jug.
it? I mean, you feel that way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think what happens is, we we
People go
have
through
different.
cycles.
When you have an 85-year-old company, it goes through
Yeah,
phases of leadership. I mentioned the
100%.
CEO in the 60s, James Hutchinson, who was a visionary who really like put us on track to where we are today. And then we've had some I think leadership that really had different ideas. And I think like recently we've just had the right leaders who've really clicked with the brand and have been able to get us a lot of traction. And so, we have been making we've been making headway, making some incredible products lately.
I feel it. I love this piece. Few fun questions for you. Are there any things that consumers are asking for that customers are asking for that 20 years ago you would have thought were crazy?
Heck yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. We call it cooler soup, Jay. So cooler soup is when the ice is melted inside your cooler, and it's a mixture of ice and water, and your bologna sandwich is now kind of ruined, right, by the cooler soup.
Oh, gross.
So 20 years ago, we were like, well, just dry out that sandwich. It'll be all right. Nowadays, we've got technologies that, iceless cooling is kind of the big thing, and controlling, your cooler, with your cellular device. So, those are the kind of the crazy things 20 years ago is I never would have thought I could control my cooler with my phone. So that's the innovation. But again, it's trying to bring all that innovation and technology, to an accessible price point.
Jay Sapovitz for Great American Summer. Today's episode, Igloo. What a great story out of Katy, Texas, manufacturing tens of millions of coolers right here in the United States. I love this piece. This is a $30 cooler, bulk ordered, 80-ounce capacity. It's all the quality you would expect from Igloo, right? It's got your brand on it. It's got their brand on it. Great, awesome spigot as well. So, dual function, drink out of the top, drink out of the side. Really just an awesome piece. It's the 80-ounce party jug from Igloo. On sale, $30 right here at the Great American Summer. Does Igloo have a cooler speaker yet?
Cooler
Yeah.
speaker. Yeah. The cool tunes. Yeah.
I don't have one in my office. Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
It's basically a Playmate, and it has 2 speakers right here. And that one, that was a reissue. We made the first one, I think, in the 90s, and then we remade one with Bluetooth and lithium batteries, and it's pretty great.
It's rocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it is. The Cool Tunes, 14 quart Cool Tunes.
There you go.
That thing's
Okay.
fantastic.
All right. I see
Sounds great.
All right. Any trends that you see coming up in outdoor recreation that will influence what are you looking in the future to what's happening?
Yeah, that's youth sports is definitely something that has changed. Obviously since I was a little leaguer, but I'm a grandpa now. But and my kids played youth sports, but today's youth sports is significantly different with all these organizations, complexes, with their own concessions. So youth sports has really evolved and will continue to evolve. So we've got our eye on that activity. And then I look at swimming pools. There's all these new subdivisions, and all these mega complexes being built for these families. And every subdivision has a pool and a splash pad. The splash pads are like water fountains and sprinklers that toddlers can run through, without risk of getting in too deep water. And so I think about these splash pads and how moms and dads are bringing their coolers and kids, to these small events. So those are 2 activities that I've got my eye on right now.
Oh my gosh, Jay. So we recently were purchased by a Swedish company called Dometic, and Dometic's a global company, right? And one of our things we're doing right now is we're going global. And let me tell you about Americans and ice, right? When we want our drinks cold, we want our drinks big and cold. The rest of the world isn't really like that, right? I have a friend who was in the UK, and she was managing, like, I guess Pizza Hut was growing there. And she said she had an ice chest, and people were blown away that you would put all that ice and drinks in an ice chest in England. She had a party where she's like, okay, I'm going to fill this ice chest up, and I'm going to show everybody what it's like to have cold drinks in an ice chest. She had to buy all the ice at a grocery store, because when you buy ice at a grocery store, it comes in a bag that's about this big. They only serve tiny bags of ice, right? So she had to buy all the ice and rip open all those bags. But that's the vibe of the rest of the world isn't quite on board with all that ice and cooling, but they are starting to. And so I think like that's like the new message for us. And what better place than Texas, right? Houston, Texas, where it's so hot that we come from these gnarly stomping grounds of heat and cold drinks that we're
Yeah.
trying to bring this to the world. And so that's one of the trends that's going on right now. The other one was what John mentioned, and that's electric cooling, right? We just started making these iceless cooling ones. They're basically a low power refrigerator for your car. It runs off the 12-volt cigarette lighter, and they're incredible. I don't know if you ever used one, but once you use one, you're never going back to ice.
Interesting.
To have like a cooler that can go from like 38 degrees to like 4 degrees below
So
zero.
hold on a second. So I plug the cooler in on my way to the beach, and that gives it the sufficient amount of power to last the 2 hours or 3 hours I'm out there.
You got it. So it takes like we say it takes like 30 minutes to cool down, but just to be safe. But no joke, they cool down like in 10 minutes. You
Oh, that's
plug that thing
interesting.
in. But also there's variables too, where we get nerdy on this, but like it all depends on how much stuff you put on there, what the temperature of the stuff you put in there, how often you open. There's all these variables, but if it's empty and you just plug it in, that thing will cool down to 38 degrees in 10 minutes. They're amazing. And the cooler soup isn't there. You could have popsicles. They're the greatest.
Any solar innovations coming?
They are coming. So, okay, so Dometic purchased us, right? And Dometic, they're all about outdoor living, mobile living. So they have a power component with batteries and solar panels. And so we are now starting to connect that technology. We do have some battery powered things coming our way pretty soon here. And so it's really exciting to see that mobile powered cooling.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. By
tempting
the way,
not to reveal too much, but yes, for sure, Jay.
I mean, Dometic John also has some unique opening methods for the products that they make, like almost feel secret compartment and European styling. Um, any of those innovations coming to Igloo, or will they be kept separate for the separate brands, you think?
Well, we actually kind of share some of this technology, and I think one of the things you're referring to was actually an Igloo idea that we have a vault of ideas that we have right behind me. We call it the
Interesting.
vault. And so as they were developing their product, we shared our vault and they said, "Hey, we want to borrow that and put it on our cooler." And like, go for it. We're the same company. So we can take, like I said, we can develop a sports car and take sports car technology and make it Igloo, and Dometic is the sports car, vice
Yeah.
versa.
John, tell me a little about Katy, Texas. Not the town, but Igloo as a an entity in Katy. Been at the company 28 years. You're at home base. Ben's not, but you are, right? Come together. Um, give me some facts people don't know about Katy, Texas, and Igloo as a company.
Okay, well, Katy was actually a rice farm. This whole area was a community of rice fields, and there was a railroad from Missouri, Kansas to Texas, and it was labeled MKT, and Katy was actually the final destination of this railroad from Missouri, and so that MKT was short to KT, which became Katy, Texas. So that's the
Oh,
fun.
that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the fun fact on the origin of the name of Katy, Texas, came from
Wow.
the railroad.
Right.
Missouri, Kansas, Texas. But yeah, we're out right outside the energy corridor. Where the primary focus of the Houston area is oil and gas and energy, and we're that little cooler company out here that is a employs or 1,200 people within the community. We like to get out and get into the local parades and sports complexes. So yeah, Katie's a great family community that we're proud to be a sponsor locally.
Yeah, you're 28 years there. What do you reckon the longest term employee at that facility you have there is?
Well, gosh, the guy who hired me, Fred Schmidt, he actually worked on the original Playmate. I think he's going on 50 years,
For
or a little
real?
bit
Wow.
longer with the company. Yeah.
Yeah. Multiple family members inside of the company work at the
Yeah,
at the.
absolutely. Yeah. I can go get my truck service down the road, and And the service manager, oh, hey, my son works at Igloo. Yeah, I know him, and so yeah, it's a pretty cool community.
I got to tell you, it's been so gratifying doing this series and just talking to people and companies that have just got such deep, incredible roots. And Igloo is one of them. I mean, 80 years next year.
Yeah,
80
yeah,
years
exactly.
next year. Eight decades, moving into its ninth decade. And I don't see any reason that it's not gonna continue and continue as an iconic American
Well,
brand that it is.
when I talk about the legacy and the legacy knowledge that's there, it's like really big. There's no, like we make more coolers than anybody. We have more machines than anybody. We have like more molds. We have like so many engineers. There's just so much institutional knowledge here that it's like it's mind blowing when we talk about, like, you talked about Fred Schmidt, right? Fred Schmidt started in 1975 here at Igloo.
Yeah,
Right out of
wow.
college. And Fred was telling me, because I was looking into the testing and how we test coolers, he's like, yeah, we've been doing it this way since I started, And so we have records of all this cooler testing that we do. John, oh my gosh. Okay. So we do lab testing to make sure everything is on spec. We have engineers testing the data or whatever. But John here tests himself. One, he does the cooler creeping. And two, John had this track built outside where he tests our coolers, right? Because we want to know things like, okay, if there's a white lid and a dark lid, what happens to the temperature difference inside? And so John's got the data, and it's wild. Like when we test that, and we don't just test 1 to 1, we test like 3 of 3, because not every cooler, like I said, they're like cookies, right? They're baked a little bit different. So we want to find the average. And so they're all out there, and we find out that the white lid might be like 110 degrees on the lid or something like that, and the black lid something like 300 degrees. It's like something like that, right, John? And then we come to find out in the inside that the ice retention is probably like 30 minutes apart or something like
Yeah,
that. It's
yep,
it's
yep.
mind blowing how like well insulated they are and how they work. And so that's some of the testing we do all the
Yeah,
time.
but listen, I mean, as a creative guy, right, Benjamin, that's where uh, you know, you might be arguing for a black lid, and if you don't have that pushback of testing, all of a sudden you launch the black lid and you might sell a few, but the reviews are going to come back terrible. There's going to be returns, like that type of diligence matters.
Yep, yeah.
Right.
No,
And
we like Ben said, our test track we've got a strip of asphalt, concrete, sand, pavers, cobblestone. We could test wheels going
You
through.
test the coolers on different surfaces, John?
Yes, yes. Yep. I'll put them in the shade or I'll put them in direct sunlight. Let's see
That's
the
deep. By the way, that's deep nerd stuff. I
oh,
mean, it's
yeah,
great.
and that's what, like, we have, when I say we have engineers, that's what those engineers are. They're so like, okay, so we did
I
this
get it.
photo shoot just the other day, and we want to put a truck on top of 4 coolers, right? Like we used to do this all the time back in the day to show how strong they are. And so the engineers are, no, we got to test this first. So they took these tools that were, how much did they weigh? Like 3,000 pounds, 3,000,
Yeah, a couple of
pounds.
tons.
They took these tools and they put them on top of the coolers to make sure that they can hold the weight of a car. And so we do this testing all the time to make sure. And of course, the testing goes in sync with legal, because there's only so much we can represent. So when we talk about 1 day, 2 day, 3 day ice retention, it's because like we have to nerf it a little because we have to fall within legal parameters. But we do have actual testing data on how many hours a cooler can last. In what we test is 90-degree heat and 60% humidity, I think it is. And we test this data consistently ever since, like, as long as Fred Schmidt can remember, and that's been our testing standard. And so we fill a cooler up 90%, up with ice, 90% volume, and then we test at these parameters. And so, like,
I love
that's
it.
inspiring to us and me, that we're making sure that everything is above board.
Shows you care about your customers.
Even like John, like you guys made this new cooler, the Yukon cooler, right? And like you guys pushed, like, you want to make sure that the latches are latched. And if this thing was full and fell off of a truck, and you guys did it, you guys pushed it off of the truck to make sure that, like, I don't know how many pounds are inside, but made sure that it can hold, those latches could hold.
What was this
Yeah, we
test?
don't do a scientific drop test. That's what our lab does, 30 inches, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I just want to dump it off the back of my truck, because that's real world.
Right. Right. That's
Right.
how it's going to really happen.
Exactly.
If
Yep.
you're going 65 down the highway, you dump it off of a truck, it's locked. Does it stay locked?
Jay, I even took one of our newer products with me on vacation to Moab, Utah, and we were doing some four-wheeling. And we got to the top of this mountain, and I said, I want to see if this cooler will survive this tumble down the mountain. And of course, we got out our cell phone. I took that cooler and I tossed it. It tumbled and tumbled hundreds and hundreds of feet. It actually landed upright. We went down the mountain in the four-wheeler and picked it up. Everything was intact. The latches didn't bust open. It worked great. So, not only do we test at Igloo, but when we go on vacation, we like to test our coolers.
We've been talking to John Maldonado, Senior Director of Product Design, and Benjamin Soto, the VP of Creative Services from Igloo. I gotta share. There's very few things in life I love more than talking to people who are passionate about what they do and what they offer. And this has been a pleasure. I mean, it zoomed by. You two are clearly deeply embedded in Igloo, your culture, your company, your products, the clients. It's beautiful.
No,
Guys.
Jay, we invite you to come down to Katy, tour the factory, show you our racetrack or test track. Yeah, it's a fun time down here. Just avoid August. Too hot.
Yeah.
My mom's in Tucson, Arizona. She calls me every day to tell me the temperature. It's 104. It's this, it's that. By the way, she calls me in November when it's 40 degrees here, and she tells me it's 92. It's too hot. It's 92. Yeah, I'm in misery. I'm at 40 degrees. But listen, John, Benjamin, it's been my pleasure. I really, really have loved the opportunity to speak with you. Like I said, talking to people who are passionate about what they do is a real joy. So that's going to do it for our wrap up on Igloo, iconic American brand coming up on their 80th. And appreciate you joining me on JSAP Chats, Great American Summer.
Awesome.